The invitation came by email, bland, copied, not even personalized. Just a forwarded message that read, "Retirement party for Charles Whitman. Join us to celebrate his legacy." I stared at the subject line for a moment, lips pressed together, wondering if they even thought twice about sending it to me. Not "Dear Emma," not "We'd love to have you," just forwarded like a company memo. My name was an afterthought, as always. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Still, I showed up. I flew in from Boston on my own dime. I'd been in Singapore the week before negotiating a deal that would change my life, but I rerouted my itinerary because, despite everything, I was still their daughter. Still that girl who wanted to feel like she belonged in the family she was born into. The venue was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the coast, champagne towers, a slideshow of Dad's best moments looping in the background with applause every few minutes. He looked proud, smug even. He always did when people praised him. My mother flitted around in a navy blue gown, lips tight, nodding, laughing, like she'd planned the whole thing without blinking once at the daughter walking in from across the room. I stood there in my slate gray silk blouse and tailored pants, clutching a small box. It was a gift, a solid silver compass I'd had engraved with, "You showed me the way by showing me the wrong one." I knew it was sharp, but also honest. Fitting, I thought. A moment later, my father spotted me. His expression was unreadable. Not anger, not joy. Just a tight, obligatory nod. He walked over, shook my hand, shook it, not hugged me, and said, "Glad you made it. Most of the family's up front. There's some space near the back, maybe near the service team. You don't mind, right?" I blinked. "The janitors and event staff are set up near the exit," he added, gesturing toward the far corner like I was somehow a logistical burden. "It's the only place left." I looked behind him. My cousins, his co-workers, even their kids were seated at round tables dressed in gold linens and rose centerpieces. My sister sat next to his CEO, laughing. My chair? It was next to a plastic tray of used plates and a staff member in a stained polo shirt wiping their hands nervously. I wasn't surprised. My dad had always been like that. Polished in public, dismissive in private. When I got into Columbia, he told people I got lucky. When I published my first article in Forbes, he said, "Don't let it get to your head." And when I founded my startup and raised $2 million in pre-seed, he told people at church I was still trying to figure things out. But this felt like a final slap. On his big day, he made sure I remembered exactly where I stood. I walked to the back corner. I sat beside a kind-looking woman in her 60s holding a tray of drinks. She gave me a soft smile and offered me a napkin. I think she thought I worked there too. I didn't correct her. I sat in silence and watched my father take the stage to give his farewell speech. He spoke of legacy, of hard work, of loyalty, of family values. My mother wiped away fake tears. My sister clapped like a seal. They toasted him, people laughed, cameras flashed. And I sat quietly beside the janitors, watching a man celebrated for building an empire, not knowing his own daughter had just acquired it. Because what no one knew, not my dad, not the guests, not even the CEO, was that just 2 weeks earlier, my company had finalized an acquisition deal. A silent buyout, strategic, powerful, clean. And the company we bought? Whitman Industrial Group, my father's empire. Every patent, every license, every asset, now under my holding company's name. He'd spent 35 years building it. I bought it in 3 months, and I hadn't told a soul. Not yet. I stayed at that table through the entire slideshow of Dad shaking hands with congressmen, holding golden plaques, standing at ribbon cuttings. At one point, they even showed a photo from when I was 8. He was shaking someone's hand while I stood in the corner, blurry, barely in frame. I heard someone murmur, "Who's the girl?" My sister replied casually, "Oh, that's Emma. She was just visiting." Just visiting. I nearly laughed. But instead, I refilled my own water from a leftover pitcher while the real family sipped vintage wine and toasted to the man who built everything. That man, my father, never looked toward the back again. as if I had been boxed away like storage. An older janitor named Luis leaned toward me and whispered, "You're not like the rest of them, are you?" I glanced at him, startled. He added, "I've been working for your father 19 years. Never once saw him smile at the people who clean his floors." He gestured around the room. "But I saw the way you looked when he sent you back here. You carry the kind of pain that makes a person dangerous." I smiled at that. "Maybe I do," I replied. And with that, I stood up and walked out quietly through the service exit, not because I was hurt, but because the final part of my plan was already in motion. The ink had dried, the press release was drafted. All that was left was perfect timing. 3 days later, Whitman Industrial's annual shareholders conference was scheduled at the Marriott downtown. I made sure my father attended. In fact, I had his longtime assistant personally confirm his seat at the front, alongside board members and executives who'd known him for decades. My name wasn't on the agenda. He didn't suspect a thing. That morning, I arrived early in a charcoal suit, hair pulled into a sleek bun, heels silent on marble floors. My name badge didn't say Emma Whitman. It said E. Lawrence, the name of my holding company. When the meeting began, the CEO began with slides, revenue, forecasts, transition plans. My father listened, nodding proudly like a retired general watching his troops march on. Then the lights dimmed. The CEO stepped aside, and my face appeared on the screen. "Ladies and gentlemen," the voiceover began, "please welcome the new executive chair of Lawrence Holdings and the new majority owner of Whitman Industrial Group." The spotlight shifted. I walked to the podium. The silence was nuclear. My father slowly stood, face drained of color. What is this?" he stammered. I didn't answer him right away. I addressed the room. Years ago, I stood in the background of this man's life, often literally. I was the afterthought, the too sensitive daughter, the one told to be quiet while greatness walked past her. I built something from that silence, something bigger, smarter, kinder. Murmurs, whispers, cameras raised. I looked directly at him now. "You built this company on power and fear. I acquired it through strategy and respect. As of last quarter, Lawrence Holdings legally owns a 72% stake in Whitman Industrial Group." Gasps. "But don't worry," I added. "I won't erase your legacy. I'll just rewrite the values." He stormed toward me. "You tricked me. You backstabbed your own father." I didn't flinch. "No, Dad. I watched you throw me away like scraps for years. This isn't revenge. This is correction." He looked around, seeking allies. But the CEO was silent. Board members stared down at their hands. Even my sister was frozen in her seat, face pale. "I want to speak," he barked to the room. "This is a shareholder meeting," I replied calmly, "and you no longer hold shares." He froze. "My final act," I added, "is to announce a new company-wide initiative. Every frontline worker, including janitorial staff, will be given equity bonuses and fast-tracked for promotion based on merit, starting with Luis." Luis, the janitor from the party, stepped out from the side hallway. In a tailored suit, the room erupted. "And my father?" He sat back down. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. He didn't come up to me after the meeting. He couldn't. He sat there like a man watching a slow-motion avalanche, silent, still, almost unreal. The same man who once told me that my ideas were cute and that real business wasn't for fragile girls. The same man who once told a client over dinner with a laugh that his daughter studied literature because someone had to write the thank you notes. The same man who threw me behind the curtain at every family event had just been professionally outmaneuvered by the very shadow he created. I didn't wait for a confrontation. I didn't need him to shout or beg or apologize. The silence in that boardroom was louder than any scream he could have given me. I walked away from the podium, past the men who once underestimated me, past the woman who once introduced me as our quiet one, and out into the light. That night, I returned to my condo overlooking the city. The skyline blinked gently through my windows. My heels sat by the door, and I curled into the corner of my couch. Not victorious, not smug. Just still, whole. There's a loneliness to healing, to walking out of a war you didn't start but had to finish anyway. I wasn't angry, I wasn't bitter, I was just free. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, my phone buzzed. It was a number I hadn't saved, but I knew it by heart. My mother's. I let it ring. She tried again, then again. Finally, a message. Your father hasn't eaten in 2 days. He's devastated. Can we talk? Another. We're at your building. Just 5 minutes. Please. I walked to the balcony, and there they were, 2 figures at the security gate looking up at my unit. My father in a beige coat that used to look powerful, now swallowed by his slumped shoulders. My mother holding her purse like a shield. They looked small from above, distant, uninvited. I didn't go down. Instead, I texted back. You told me to sit with the janitors, so I did, then I built the throne. A few minutes later, Luis arrived at my door, holding a bottle of wine and wearing that same tailored suit. He had just finished his first official day as Director of Facilities Management, full salary, full benefits, a nameplate on the door. We sat, laughed, clinked glasses. He told me that after I left the retirement party, some of the janitors stayed late. They talked about how they'd never seen someone like me, someone who sat with them like they mattered. And now? They were being sent to professional development classes. Their kids' tuition was partially covered by a new scholarship I'd established in my father's name. Not to honor him, to remind them where they came from and how far they'd rise. Months passed. I never blocked my parents, but I never opened the gate either. My sister tried to guilt me in an email. Family is all we have in the end. I replied, then maybe you should have treated me like one when you had the chance. The press picked up the story. Daughter buys father's company, flips the culture. I gave no interviews. I didn't need the world to clap. I didn't build my empire to be seen. I built it to be safe. Years later, at a business leadership summit, I was asked to speak. When I walked on stage, the spotlight hit me, just like it had hit my father that night at his party. But this time, no one pushed me to the back. No one told me to sit with the staff. No one handed me a plastic cup and a cold sandwich. Instead, I looked out at a crowd of rising leaders, many of them women, many of them daughters like me, and I said, sometimes the people who put you last give you the clearest view of what needs to change, and if they won't give you a seat at the table, build the building. Applause thundered through the hall. I looked to the front row. Luis was there, now a VP. His daughter sat beside him, beaming, wearing a university sweatshirt funded by our company. And in that moment, everything came full circle. I was never the problem. I was the revolution. And now, no one, not even the people who tried to bury me, could ignore the foundation I'd become. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.